Now let's talk about the two most important rules for accounting and bookkeeping. The first rule: each transaction must change two accounts or more. So we're going to see an example on the next slide. So notice at the top we have the accounting equation. Assets equals liabilities plus owner's equity. And this time, for the very first time, under assets, we're listing all of our different assets. So we have cash, accounts receivable, and computer equipment. Under liabilities, we only have one account, accounts payable. And under owner's equity, we have the owner's equity account, capital. And then we have the three types of events that will affect equity. Draw is also the same as saying withdrawals. So remember, draws lower equity. And then we have revenue. Revenue is when you sell something. So you're going to record revenue whenever you sell a service or a product. And revenue increases equity. And then we have expenses. Expenses lower equity. So this company is brand new. We're going to list their beginning balances. BAL stands for balance. So because every company that's brand new, they start with balances of 0. So they start with nothing. Every company starts with nothing at the very beginning. Now we're going to talk about our very first transaction, creatively called Transaction A. So Beth Bell, she must be the owner of the business. Beth Bell starts a business by depositing $10,000 into a business checking account. And of course, we will call that the cash account. So in this grid system that we're going to use in Chapter 1 to learn how to record transactions, we're going to list the first transaction as Transaction A. In future chapters, you'll see that we'll just use the date. So what is happening to her cash account in this transaction? Well, first of all, is her cash account affected? Well, yeah, she had 0 before this, and now she's depositing $10,000 into her account, so cash is affected. So is cash going up or is cash going down? Well, her business has more cash, so we're going to put a positive $10,000 under cash. Now look at row A. Remember, the accounting equation must balance after every transaction. So in Transaction A, we have $10,000 on the left side, but we have nothing on the right side. So we're not done yet. So that's where this Rule 1 comes into effect. Each transaction, like Transaction A, must affect 2 accounts or more. Usually it's just 2, especially in this chapter. So we have plus 10,000 on the left side of the transaction, or left side of the equation. Now we're going to have to make this row A, Transaction A, balance. So how are we going to do that? So what's the other account that we're going to put 10,000 under? Is it revenue? No, revenue is when you sell something. She has not sold something. Is this an expense? No. Is this drawing? Remember, a draw is when you take money out of the business. So no, this is the opposite. This is a deposit. So we're going to put the $10,000 under capital because the owner, Beth Bell, is the one who owns this cash. You wouldn't put it under accounts payable because that would mean that she would owe the money to someone. No, it's not true. This money is all hers in that business. So if you look at row A, Transaction A, the transaction now balances. We have 10,000 on the left side and we have 10,000 on the right side. And when I say left side and right side, I mean the left side of the equal sign and the right side of the equal sign. So after every transaction, we need to calculate our new balances. So the second row, we're going to put BAL to show that we're going to list our balances. And now the math here is super easy. What's our new balance of cash? 10,000. What's our new balance of capital? 10,000. So our assets are $10,000 and our liabilities plus owner's equity is also $10,000. So our accounting equation does balance. So you always have to check to make sure that your accounting equation balances. So that's the nice thing about accounting, and one reason why we have high grades in here, because if you make a mistake, as long as you check the balance of your accounting equation, you'll be notified that you have made a mistake if it does not balance. So most students catch the errors and go and fix it before they get any points deducted. So in transaction A, how many accounts were affected? Well, 2 accounts were affected. Remember, row A is transaction A. Cash was affected and capital was affected. So it's impossible to have a transaction that only affects one account, because then the accounting equation would not balance. So let's look at rule 2, which we mentioned before. The transaction must have an equal effect on both sides of the accounting equation, and then balances, running totals, after the transaction must balance the accounting equation. So basically, well, like we said before, each transaction must balance the accounting equation. So in transaction A, what was the effect on the left side of the equation? We've kind of already done this. And what was the effect on the right side? So let's do the effect on the left side. In transaction A, $10,000 was added to both the left side, and we also added $10,000 to the right side of the equation. And then we took a look at our balances. We found that $10,000 was on the left side under assets, and $10,000 was on the right side under owner's equity. So it's super, super critical to understand the 2 most important rules of accounting. 2 accounts or more are going to be affected by every transaction, and the transaction must balance, and then the balances after the transaction must also balance. In other words, the accounting equation must be true. Assets must equal liabilities plus owner's equity.